Hassan Sunderani, who was born in Uganda, holds a degree in physical education from Loughborough University and a degree in English from Oxford University, both in England. He was Uganda's chief sports officer from 1964 to 1971 and led Uganda's sports teams to the 1964 Olympics, 1966 Commonwealth Games in Jamaica, 1968 Mexico Games, and the 1970 Commonwealth Games in Edinburgh. He also attended the Pan-Arab Games in 1967, held in Cairo, Egypt, and the 1972 Munich Olympic Games. In 1969, he was awarded Uganda's highest and first ever honor, the Grand Member of Uganda Sports, by the Uganda Sports Council, and the presentation was made by the then President of Uganda, Dr. Obote. He left Uganda in 1972 for England, where he was appointed as senior lecturer at East Ham University, and in 1974 he was appointed magistrate by the British Lord Chancellor. In 1975 he immigrated to Canada, where he produced and presented a regular TV show, The Current Affairs Magazine, in Calgary, Alberta. In 1980 he moved to Victoria, BC, where he again produced and presented a TV show called Current Affairs Magazine. In 1988, he joined the Victoria Commonwealth Games Society as a volunteer and was sent to several African countries to lobby for Victoria's bid to stage the 1994 Commonwealth Games in Victoria, BC. The same year he attended the Olympic Games held in Seoul, Korea, where he, besides attending the Olympic Games, attended the Commonwealth Games Federation meeting, and he was the leading spokesperson for the bid to stage the Commonwealth Games in Victoria. And finally, the Games were indeed awarded to Victoria. Hassan was later appointed to the Board of Governors of the Victoria Commonwealth Games Society and traveled with his wife Tazim to Auckland, New Zealand, Singapore, Malaysia, India, and Spain as the member of the Board of Governors of the Victoria Commonwealth Games Society. During his youth days, Hassan actively participated in athletics and soccer, and in 1959, Hassan, as captain of the Aga Khan Sports Club soccer team, defeated the Baganda Princes in the Uganda FA Cup final by 3-2. His Highness Prince Aga Khan was the guest of honor for this cup final, and he presented the FA Cup to Hassan at the end of the match. During his career in Uganda, UK, and Canada, Hassan had the opportunity to visit with various dignitaries. He was a member of the Aga Khan National Council in Uganda, UK, and in Canada. In 1974, during the 6-month absence of the then president of the UK Aga Khan National Council, Hassan was the acting president of the Aga Khan National Council. This next video further shows Hassan throughout his sports career in Uganda. Hassan, as captain of the Aga Khan Football Club, which beat the Baganda Princes in the Uganda FA Cup final 3-2, receiving the trophy from Maulana Hazar Imam. Here, introducing the teammates to the guest of honor before the kickoff. Displaying the Uganda FA Cup. The Aga Khan Football Club won the FA Cup final on the 18th of September 1959 when they beat the Baganda Princes by 3-2. In the background, dressed in white, is the guest of honor for the cup final, Maulana Hazar Imam, His Highness the Aga Khan. With Maulana Hazar Imam and Mr. Kulubya, the chairman of the Uganda National Council of Sports, 1967. Addressing the Uganda Army officers, including General Idi Amin, 6th from right, during a reception held at Uganda Army Headquarters in September 1967. With the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, Prince Sadruddin Aga Khan in Tehran in August 1967 during a meeting of the International Olympic Committee. The Secretary General of the Supreme Council of Sports in Africa, Mr. Ganga, joining in, with President Kanuta of Zambia. Introducing the chairman of the West Bromwich Albion team to President Kanuta before the football match at the Nakavubo Stadium, Kampala, 1967. The Uganda team officials of the Olympic Games, Tokyo, 1964. Hassan holding the Ugandan flag at the opening ceremonies of the 1964 Tokyo Olympics. An aerial view of the National Stadium, main site of the Games. The Uganda team pausing with His Excellency, the President of Uganda, Dr. Apollo Milton Obote, before flying off to Jamaica for the 1966 Commonwealth Games. meeting Prince Charles during the 1966 Commonwealth Games held in Kingston, Jamaica. At the Uganda State House with fellow team officials before departure to Mexico. The flag-raising ceremony at the Mexico Olympics. Leading the Uganda Olympic team in a march during the Olympic ceremony of the Mexico Games. Before the opening ceremony march of the Mexico Olympic Games. Closing ceremony of the Mexico Olympics. With Abibi Bikila of Ethiopia, who won gold medals both at the 1960 Rome Olympics and the 1964 Tokyo Olympics. Displaying silver and bronze medals won by Mkwanga and Robogo in the Mexico Olympics. On the extreme left is Uganda's boxing coach, Grace Peter Shawagi. President Obote with the Uganda team before they flew off to Mexico for the 1968 Olympic Games. President Obote addressing the Uganda Olympic team for the 1968 Mexico Games. General Idi Amin with the Uganda Olympic team for Mexico, 1968. Meeting Prince Philip during the 1968 Mexico Olympic Games. Addressing the General Assembly of the Supreme Council of Sports in Africa, Cairo, 1969. Hassan pouring champagne in the East African Challenge Football Cup, formerly known as the Gossage Cup, which Uganda won for the third consecutive year in 1969. Next on the right is the Minister of Culture, Mr. C.B. Katiti. The Uganda National Council of Sports, 1969. Hassan chairing the meeting of the Executive Committee of the Supreme Council of Sports in Africa, held in Kampala in January 1967, and attended by Y. Tassima of Ethiopia, A. Tuni of Egypt, M. Mohammed of Sudan, J. Amino of Kenya, and P. Kakoza of Uganda. Receiving the British Olympic boxers at Entebbe Airport in January 1968. On the extreme right is Terry Waller, who has since turned professional. Flag-raising ceremony of the Vice President of Uganda before departure to the Edinburgh Games. Hassan introducing the fellow team members to the Vice President before departure to Edinburgh Games. Replying to the Vice President's speech in the same ceremony. The 1970 Commonwealth Games, Team Uganda, with Vice President at the Lugogo Stadium. Hassan having a chat with His Royal Highness Prince Charles during the 1970 Commonwealth Games in Edinburgh, and meeting Her Majesty the Queen at the Hollywood Palace in Edinburgh 1970. Hassan presenting the Uganda Cobb Trophy to His Royal Highness Prince Philip at the Commonwealth Games Village 1970. Presenting a bottle of Uganda Wiragi to the Duke of Edinburgh 1970. Marching through Kampala Road after the return from the Commonwealth Games in which Uganda won 3 gold, 2 silver, and 2 bronze medals, a new record, 1970. The National Council of Sports decided to present Uganda's highest sports award, the Grand Member of the Uganda Sports, to its General Secretary, Mr. Hassan Sunderani, for his outstanding service and dedication to Uganda sports. In accordance with the Council's wish, this award was later presented to Mr. Sunderani by His Excellency, the President of Uganda, Dr. A.M. Obote. The following video shows Hassan meeting with various world dignitaries. Meeting with Gerald Ford, the former U.S. President. Hassan with Premier Bill Bennett in Victoria, BC. With Prime Minister Joe Clark. Mr. and Mrs. Sunderani with Prime Minister Brian Mulroney. Mr. and Mrs. Sunderani meeting with Prime Minister Trudeau in Ottawa. Hassan Sunderani, a member of the Board of Governors of the Victoria Commonwealth Games Society, had the privilege to invite Prime Minister Chrétien to attend the Commonwealth Games in Victoria. Sunderani was the chairman of the organizing committee for the 1994 Commonwealth Games boxing. The Prime Minister accepted his invitation and congratulated the prominent Ismaili Canadian for his voluntary service and involvement with the Games. Hassan introducing his wife Tazim to His Royal Highness Prince Edward during the 1994 Commonwealth Games. Hassan welcoming Prince Philip to the opening ceremony of the Victoria Commonwealth Games 1994. Hassan Sunderani with His Royal Highness Prince William during the 1994 Commonwealth Games. Board of Governors 1994 Victoria, BC Commonwealth Games. This photo was taken in Barcelona, Spain during the 1992 Olympic Games. 2006 in Victoria, BC. Hassan Sunderani with Prime Minister Stephen Harper. Mr. Sunderani received several communications from Hazar Imam. Here are 2 examples. Dated 16th of June, 1969. My dear spiritual child, I have received your letter of 30th May with the enclosures, and I was most happy indeed to learn of the success of your Uganda Olympic team during the last Mexico Olympics. I was even happier, however, to learn of your immense personal success in being awarded Grand Member of Uganda Sports by the Uganda Sports Council. This is a magnificent tribute to the time, work, energy, and perseverance with which you have accomplished your mission, and it does honor to you personally and to the whole Jamaat. I am most proud of your success and send you my warmest congratulations. I send you my best paternal, maternal loving blessings for service submitted on this occasion. Yours affectionately, Aga Khan. Dated 30th September 1974. My dear spiritual child, I have received your letter of 25th September. I send you my best loving blessings for your devoted services to our Council in the United Kingdom, with best loving blessings for success in your career in Canada. Yours affectionately, Aga Khan. Mr. Hassan Sunderani, Acting President, His Highness the Aga Khan Shia Mamai Ismailia, Council for the United Kingdom, London.
Hassan Sunderani and his family have lived in Victoria for about 5 years. The story of how they came here is proof that indeed fact is often stranger than fiction. From 1964 until 1971, Hassan Sunderani was the Chief Sports Officer of Uganda, also the Vice President of the Supreme Council of Sports in Africa. Idi Amin was the Army commander at that time. Hassan was forced to coach him in physical fitness. Hassan was the team manager for the Uganda Olympic and Commonwealth Games. He met with Prince Philip during the 1970 Edinburgh Commonwealth Games. Prince Charles was another of the dignitaries he met through his work. Hassan's position as Chief Sports Officer was a very high-level government position, which took him around the world. He visited Japan, Russia, India, North America, and many other places. He met with the highest political figures on his travels, including then-President Gerald Ford. The Canadian dignitaries he met with included Prime Ministers Joe Clark and Pierre Trudeau. The Alberta Premier, Peter Lougheed, and BC's Premier Bennett. The pictures you've just seen were taken during the height of Hassan Sunderani's career as sports officer, chief sports officer in Uganda. All that changed in about 1971 when Idi Amin, tyrant, overthrew the government and threw everybody out of the country who was connected with the government unless he killed them. How did you happen to be able to leave with your life when, as we've just shown, you were a very high official in the government that Idi Amin overthrew?
Yeah, after the army takeover, I was tipped off by a senior army officer in Uganda who happened to be my good friend. And I was tipped off on a Monday morning, and I was due to be picked up on a Saturday morning. With the help of this army officer and with the help of British High Commissioner, I was able to escape under disguise.
What happened to the friend who tipped you off?
There were 14 other people who were supposed to be picked up along with me, and those 14 were indeed arrested on a Saturday morning. They were taken to Makindia prison, and they were killed brutally.
When you think about that, how can you must say, why me? Why, out of all those people, was I allowed to escape?
Yeah, I think I was very lucky, thanks to the army officer and thanks to the British High Commissioner.
When you left, were you able to take anything with you, or was it a case of whatever you were wearing, including your disguise, and that was it?
That's all, just the things that I was wearing.
So pretty well your whole family was able to escape?
Yeah.
Now you went to England immediately when you escaped and ended up with some very good positions there.
Yeah.
What were you doing in England?
In England, I was a senior lecturer at Eastham College of Technology. I was teaching English and phys ed. And I was also later, I was a magistrate at the County Borough of Newham.
Now, not everyone, obviously, who escaped from Uganda the way you did had the education that you had and the credentials that you had. What's happened to all of them?
Now, luckily, most Asians were able to escape, but very many Africans, of African origin, mostly, who are highly educated, unfortunately, most of them have been killed.
Was there very much assistance for people like you who managed to get away with their lives in starting your lives over again? Or did you have to basically do it all on your own?
No, I had to do it all over again, but the thing that helped me most was my education. As I went to Oxford and I did my English, and I also went to Loughborough College in England where I did my phys ed. So nobody could take away our education from us.
But they took away your friends and a lot of your past.
Indeed, yeah.
Have you been back to Uganda since?
No.
Do you want to go back?
I don't think so. There's so much trouble there,
Well, now they're in the middle of another rebellion, it seems.
That's right.
Another army is
Exactly.
in control now of something like a third of the country.
Exactly. Idi Amin ruled for about 8 to 9 years, and during his regime, there have been so much hatred, intertribalism, and seeds of hatred have been inculcated into the local population. And as you know, there's tribes against tribes, and I don't think it's safe at all, especially for me to go back there.
You feel like you especially would be in danger because of the position you were in before?
Yes, I was in fact called back by Milton Obote, who later returned as the president, but I politely turned it down because it wasn't safe for me to go back there.
Let's talk about some of the happier times of your life in Uganda.
Yeah.
And the runner that you were involved with, whose name I can't pronounce and don't remember anyway. Tell us about him.
Two distinct things I feel extremely happy about. One of them was the discovery of John Akiboa, who in 1972 Munich Olympic Games not only won the first ever Olympic gold medal for Uganda in athletics, but he went on to break the world record. Now, Akiboa, we discovered him in 1970, in the month of May. It was the Uganda National Championships athletics. And I was about to start the finals of the 400-meter hurdles. And I had 7 runners. The 8th one was out because of pulled muscle. And so I had one vacant lane. And the athletes were warming up before the start of the race. And suddenly, out of blue, a youngster broke away from this crowd of spectators and came towards the hurdles and started jumping over the hurdles. And he jumped over 6 hurdles. And he was chased away by the track judges. And as this was happening, another man broke away from the crowd and came straight for me. And he happened to be his father and said, "Look, I want my son to run."
Sounds like you couldn't stop him anyway.
No, so I of course, I would have said no because he hadn't gone through the preliminary rounds. But somehow, I had a hunch. And I made, at that time, it was a stupid decision. Because I had the final say, as I was the chief sports officer. And I said, fine, stay in your inside lane and don't try to cut into other lanes, and I'll let you run. His father says, my son is going to win this race, and if he does win, you must give him a cow. And I said, yes. I don't know why I said it, but I said yes. I called them to the starting line, get set, fire the gun, off they went. Akiboa left a little later, maybe a fraction of a second. But to the amazement of the entire crowd of spectators, Akiboa went on to win the race.
You had to give him a cow.
Yes, I did, yeah.
And then he broke the world record.
Now, in 1970, Commonwealth Games in Edinburgh, 70, he was the 4th in high hurdles. And 2 years later, he gets into the Olympic finals, breaks the world record, and wins the first ever gold medal for Uganda. I was there, and I saw him winning this medal, and I wept with joy.
Now, you have these great moments that you had, not only that, but the other Olympic Games and Commonwealth Games that you were involved in when you were in Uganda, and then you have the horror of how you left there. I'm wondering what you will tell your children about Uganda when they're old enough to ask you. They're 4 and 5 now. What will you say?
Well, as I said, one of the things I'll tell them is this wonderful experience I had, and the other thing which I want to quickly mention is the other good memory is that under my leadership in the 1970 Commonwealth Games, which are held in Edinburgh, Uganda was the top boxing nation in the entire Commonwealth, having won 5 medals, 3 gold medals and 2 silver medals. and I regard this as a great achievement.
We're really nearly out of time now. What would you like to tell Canadians about Uganda and what that whole experience has done for you and how you feel about living here now?
Yes, having escaped from Uganda and having seen the standard of living in Uganda, when I often look here, I regard myself, and in fact all Canadians, extremely lucky. We have got peace, security, tranquility, fairly organized government. We don't have coups, we don't have intertribal wars. And I would tell my friends here, and I'm myself a Canadian now, that we are indeed very lucky to be in Canada, which is a peaceful country, and we should count our blessings and thank Lord for that.
Thank you very much for coming in today. Hassan Sunderani. Rich and I will be back in just a moment. We'll tell you about tomorrow's program.
Hassan Sunderani produced and hosted Current Affairs Magazine, a weekly TV show in Victoria, BC. The following examples are just some of the guests featured on the show.
Hi, I am Hassan Sunderani. Welcome to another edition of Current Affairs. In Greater Victoria, we have 5 different police forces, each with an administrative machinery headed by a police chief. We have the Victoria Police Force, and then we have police forces in Saanich, Esquimalt, Oak Bay, and the Central Saanich. Would it not be a good idea in having all these 5 forces united under one single authority? Is the crime rate in Victoria or Greater Victoria on increase? What is being done about the growing instances of vandalism and wild beach parties? Is it ethically and morally right for a police officer to go on strike? Well, to answer these and other relevant questions, ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed my pleasure in introducing and presenting to you my 2 guests, the Chief of the Victoria City Police, Bill Snowden, and the Chief of the Saanich Police Force, Bob Peterson. Gentlemen, welcome to this program. Welcome to another edition of Current Affairs. Prime Minister Trudeau recently announced the intention of the federal government of Canada to repatriate the British North American Act, or the Canadian Constitution, after it has been fully debated in the House of Parliaments in Ottawa. Thus, history is in making. Prime Minister Trudeau will become the first Prime Minister in last 53 years who will have succeeded in bringing back the British North American Act to Canada. What will be the implication? How will the provinces react? To discuss these and other relevant issues, ladies and gentlemen, my guest tonight is a constitutional expert, Dr. Patrick Smith, who is a professor in the School of Public Administration at the University of Victoria. Patrick, how do you view the intention of Trudeau in trying to bring back the BNA Act?
I think you're right in your introduction, Hassan.
Welcome to this special edition of Current Affairs. Does the government of British Columbia directly or indirectly support the recent upsurge in the separatist movement in Western Canada? If not, should the British Columbia government openly condemn such separatist movement? Now that the federal government of Pierre Elliott Trudeau is determined to bring home and change the Canadian Constitution, what chance has Canada of remaining united? Well, to answer these and other current issues, ladies and gentlemen, I have pleasure and privilege in welcoming and introducing to you my most distinguished guest today, the Premier of the Government of British Columbia, Honorable Bill Bennett. Mr. Premier.
Hassan, I'm pleased to be here and to be your guest and to have a chance to answer some of the very difficult questions that face not only our government, but all British Columbians and Canadians. So thank you for inviting me.
Thanks.
It has been my pleasure meeting and helping Mr. Sunderani assemble this video presentation. And now, I would like to introduce Mr. Sunderani in person.
Thank you, Mr. Costre, for putting together the highlights of my past in this video. I decided to make this video as a result of the request made to me by my beloved wife Tazim and by my son and my daughter Ali and Alisa, so that I can leave behind a short record of my past achievements. First of all, I like to thank Uganda, where I was born and where I spent half of my life there. The people of Uganda on the whole have been very good to me. God bless Uganda. I would also like to thank Great Britain, where I received my post-secondary education. God bless Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth. I also take this opportunity to thank Canada, which has become my final home, and I thank all Canadians for making us feel at home. God bless Canada. Finally, I take this opportunity to pay my special tributes to my spiritual father, Maulana Hazar Imam, His Highness Prince Karim Aga Khan, who not only paid for my post-secondary education in Great Britain, but I owe him for whatever I have achieved in the past with his blessings. And with that, we come to the end of this video. Thank you very much, and God bless you all.